Hello, it's Mike the Burge, guitar instructor with Doobie's Music, and I'm here today to talk about the myth that is killing your picking speed. A little about myself. I grew up in the tail end of the hair metal and shred guitar phase. I attended GIT from 92 to 93. Now, back in those days, before grunge came along, guitar heroes, they were basically revered like athletes. Eddie Van Halen got paid some ridiculous amount of money, like $12 million, to do a Pepsi commercial. Vinnie Moore was on another Pepsi commercial. Now, those days are long gone because I watched grunge and alternative quickly take over the music scene. However, the guitar players of today are faster and more accurate than ever before. Okay, so what's the myth that we're talking about? The myth is the idea that you have to be able to alternate pick any combination of notes, and if you have trouble with any of these, you simply need to slow down and practice and then slowly speed it back up. Well, there's mechanical issues that you have when trying to play fast, doing alternate picking. And, well, on certain combinations of notes, if you don't have the right mechanics, it's impossible to play fast. And it doesn't matter how much you practice. You're not going to overcome this until you fix the mechanics. Now, when I was coming up as a serious shred guitar student, I love shred guitar. Every serious shred student had this in their library. Okay? I love Troy Stetna. He's probably the greatest guitar instructor for rock and metal in the history of guitar instruction. However, inside this book, he pushes that myth. I'm going to read you a few excerpts. So, here we go. A further benefit of developing good alternate picking technique is that with it, you can play any sequence of notes without having to figure out a picking system for it beforehand. You will be more free when improvising since you won't have to limit yourself to prearranged patterns. That is the myth. Okay? And I'm going to prove it with one of the exercises that he has inside this book. Okay, so before we move on, let's talk about the misunderstanding of the mechanical issues, which he talks about in this book, and then compare it to a different solution, which was more recently discovered by another Troy, a guy by the name of Troy Grady. And I believe, in my opinion, it's the most important discovery in speed picking, especially speed picking instruction, since this guy came out with his book. Okay, so in the next section, he talks about inside and outside picking. Now, inside picking is basically when you play a downstroke, and then you have to come over that string, play an upstroke on the string below it, or vice versa. So, let's say if I'm on the B string and I want to go up, that's going to be an upstroke, and then the other's going to be a down. So, you're in between the two strings. That's inside picking. Okay, outside picking is when you surround the two strings. So if I play with a downstroke on the B, then an upstroke on the E, it's surrounded. Okay, now in different situations, these different strategies are going to feel different crossing the strings, and crossing the strings is the main problem we're trying to solve. Okay, so what I'm doing right there, I'm just going down a pentatonic scale, and I take, first two strings, I play that, then I repeat, and I keep going down. Now, that's going to feel different than if I was to, say, play this. and so on. Okay, now the problem with inside and outside picking is it's a two-dimensional understanding of a three-dimensional problem. And a lot of people, including myself, back in the day, you know, we bought into this myth that inside picking was harder to do than outside picking. And turns out that's completely false. Okay? So it depends on the mechanic of how you're crossing the string. Now, we didn't really fully understand this until Troy Grady comes along and starts explaining something called pick slanting. Now, pick slanting is still one of the most misunderstood things. I see a lot of people, they get it wrong. Okay? So, when you cut into a string, so when you go like that, I'm going to switch the angle here. My pick is now stuck in between these two strings. I'll get a little closer. So, let's see. Now I'm stuck in between those. The only options I have is to come back through the same string, or if I'm going to continue to alternate pick, I have to come up and over to get to the B string. And we call that string hopping. String hopping is the enemy of speed. Okay, now the funny thing is that once you understand these mechanics, you'll understand that string hopping can occur with inside or outside picking. It doesn't matter, you know, whether you're inside or outside. What matters is where you are when you're crossing the string and what angle your pick is at. Okay, so I'm playing two notes there, and now I want to cross to a B string. Okay, if I'm using a downward pick slant, so what that is, you're going to take your pick and you're going to angle it towards the floor. Okay, this is not pick slanting. Okay, that's edge picking. If your pick is flat and you cut like that, that's an edge pick. That's not what we're talking about. Okay, we are talking about the angle of your pick in relation to the floor and the ceiling. So if the top of your pick is closer to the floor than the string you're crossing, that is a downward pick slant. If the top of your pick is closer to the ceiling than the string that you are crossing, that is an upward pick slant. Okay, now in this situation, okay, when I play this, the first two notes I can cross just fine because I'm using a downward pick slant on this particular lick. Now right here, you get into a sticky situation. Okay, once you cross this, you want to come back up here and play this note again. Okay, well, you're going to have some mechanical issues going on here because you actually have to hop up over the string and pluck it on the other side. So, well, what if we just sweep pick? Well, we can do that. But now you're stuck on this side. So the same mechanical problem still occurs because we want to take that lick and keep going down. Okay? So this is the particular lick that I'm talking about. Now, ironically, it's using outside picking. Okay? Now, outside picking, back in the myth days, we thought that this was the easier way to pick. And turns out, no, it's not. So, you're going to take that, and we're going to run all the way through the scale. Okay? So, we're going to go all the way down the pentatonic box. Then we're going to go like this. Whoops. Now, once we get down here, we're going to really complicate things because we're going to go back up. And what happens is you're going to have to actually pick an individual strings, which makes it even more difficult to cross Okay? Right there. You're crossing 3 individual strings with alternate picking. It's one of the most difficult things to do. It requires something called a double escape motion. And basically, bluegrass players are fantastic at this. However, there's speed limits to it. Okay? You cannot go as fast as your fastest John Petrucci or Chris Impellitteri licks using a two-way escape motion. It's just, it's not ergonomic enough, and it's not efficient enough. So we have to come up with a different solution. Now, basically, when you are using pick slanting, the idea is the escape motion is what makes things possible. Okay, what it does is it combines 2 motions together. Okay, you have your escape motion, which is the same as your regular motion going across the strings. Now, I'm demonstrating with a downward pick slant because most people are downward pick slanters. I've discovered I'm actually the opposite. I'm an upward pick slanter. So when I demonstrate this lick up to speed, I'm going to use my methods. What we want is for that pick to come above the guitar strings and be able to cross the next string. So, sweeping will get you back up there, but now you can't get back down here, okay, without changing your pick angle. You just can't do it. So, that's the fly in the ointment. So, the other way, if I go like this, again, the first 2, I'm free, okay? Top of my pick is pointed up towards the ceiling. I cut into the string, come back across the string. Now my pick is lifted up above the body. I'm free to move to the next string, okay? Now when I come here, I'm caught in between these 2 strings, okay? So with both kinds of pick slanting, you're suffering the same problem. So what we're going to do is we're going to use a prearranged pattern, the very thing that he was railing against, and we're going to make this more efficient. We're going to make it so that we only cross strings with an escape motion that works, okay? So at the top here, what I'm going to do, I'm actually playing 4 notes on a string, okay? I've taken this note here and I've put it here. So 1, 2, 3, and the 4th one is I come back here. Now I play here, and I'm going to sweep across the string, okay? Now I'm going to continue this all the way down, and then right here I'm going to sweep and I'm going to reverse directions, okay? So I'm playing 4 notes on a string now. Okay, so the whole lick now compare that with playing it like this. Okay, so that way it's fine at slow speeds, but once you start to speed up, you're going to have all kinds of trouble. Now, I'm going to get a little warmed up here, and I'll turn this back on once I'm warmed up, and I'm going to rip through this thing at full speed. Now, I'm going to try to get it up around 180, 200, somewhere in that range. Now, I promise you, virtually everybody out there, if you try to do the Troy Stettner example, there's no way you're going to get there, okay? The bluegrass players are the only ones that might be able to do it, and they're still going to be stuck at 160 to 180 max. All right, so let me warm up and we'll take a few shots at this. Okay, I took a few shots for the last one because that's not a normal part of my arsenal. I'm going to show you a different lick. I call this the Eric Johnson 5s, and this is something I do a lot. Eric Johnson and I, we achieve the same thing in completely different methods because he's a downward slanter and I'm an upward slanter. Okay, so what I'm going to do here, we're going down the pentatonic pattern again, and I'm going to borrow notes, this time from this side of the fretboard, and I'm just going to go down 5 notes. Okay, now my pick's up in the air because I start with an upstroke and then I sweep down here, and because I slant towards the ceiling, it comes above the guitar body and I'm ready to go to the next string. Now, the way Eric Johnson would do the same thing, he'd be in the second position of the pentatonic pattern. So, down, up, down, up. Now, there's a single note on this string, and he's going to sweep back up. So, that sets him up for the next 5 notes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And they finish it out. Oh, yuck. There we go. Now, if you were to try that out with strict alternate picking, it would be a complete and total nightmare. And that's what the whole point of this video is. Okay? So, for them to say that you can't use a system, that you have to be able to alternate pick everything, it's a complete fallacy, because you have certain licks in your arsenal that you do all the time. So do they. Okay? So, for them to claim that that's not a prearranged pattern is actually a lie. Okay? Now, Yngwie Malmsteen is one of the greatest speed pickers of all time. And, well, guess what? Everything he does is prearranged. Okay? Troy Grady goes into great detail in his Cracking the Code videos. And, like, episodes 8 through 10, I believe, are the ones that cover Yngwie's system. And he goes into super detail about how Yngwie does everything to avoid having to pick after a downstroke. Okay? So, he's a downward slanter, so after the upstroke, it sets him free to move to whatever string. Well, everything that he does is based on getting that upstroke in there so that he can move to the next string. Now, he'll use sweeping, he'll use a pull-off, he'll do all kinds of things. And you can't detect it, because when he's going down a scale and there's only 1 or 2 pull-offs in the whole thing, you're not going to pick up on that so easily. You know, if you did the whole scale with pull-offs, yeah, you could hear it. But if you're picking everything and then you just throw in 1 pull-off, the ear's not going to be able to pick it up because it goes by too fast. So, getting back to the myth part of it, if they're saying that somebody who uses only prearranged patterns is not a good player, well, they're saying that Yngwie Malmsteen, the greatest speed picker of all time, is not a good player. And that's simply false. That's laughable. That's the point of this video. All right, so if you want to learn more about how to play fast, I've spent a lot of time. You know, I've been playing for almost 40 years now, and most of it is shred guitar. This is what I do. This is my meat and potatoes. All right, so give Tom Doobie a call and Let's set up some lessons. See ya.